So welcome everybody to the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum's live web series presentation, The Future of Apprenticeship in Canada. My name is Racine DeBartolo. I will be your host today. I'm the event and outreach coordinator here at the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. So just wanted to say a brief welcome to all of our members who have joined us today. Thank you so much. It is your support of the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum that makes these webinars possible. So welcome to you, and if you are on the line and you're not yet a member, we do hope you'll consider becoming a member, and if you need more information, please do contact me following the webinar. So just before I welcome our guest presenters, I did want to offer a little bit of context as to why we're doing this web series. So as part of our 2016 conference, we had a session on the future of apprenticeship in Canada, where we discussed some of the big and pressing issues regarding apprenticeship. Over 300 stakeholders from across Canada attended this session, and based on their experiences, they discussed their challenges and they shared their best practices and ideas for future action. We have a conference brief based on those discussions, and that report you see here is available to members by visiting the report section of the CAF website. So at that event, we discussed 8 key themes in apprenticeship, and the group agreed that these were the core issues and some of the main challenges and areas we need to work on within apprenticeship. So those areas were employer engagement, on-the-job training and mentoring, harmonization and apprentice mobility, completion, welcoming workplaces, career awareness, technology, and technical training. So we've already done part 1 and part 2 of our series on employer engagement and on-the-job training and mentoring. You can find those recordings on our YouTube channel if you missed them. But of course today we're here to talk about harmonization. So just to give you a bit of a background on what we heard from that session last June, stakeholders agreed that apprentice mobility continues to be a challenge. When demand decreases in one part of the country and increases in another, it's important to connect apprentices seeking work to employers who are hiring elsewhere. The apprenticeship community really supports efforts to harmonize and spoke about how stakeholders really stand to benefit from increasing employment and completion rates among apprentices. Talked about the importance of continued awareness about the protocol and keeping up to date on harmonization initiatives. They talked about making sure employers are included in the conversation, and we really want to be able to tap into the knowledge of employer champions who manage mobility well and be able to share their best practices with others. They also talked about including and accommodating employers, especially medium to small size businesses who may not have HR departments and have unique needs due to their size. And we talked about how we can keep them included in the conversations about harmonization and mobility. They also highlighted the importance of sharing information and materials across the country, and stakeholders were really interested in how harmonization might actually create more opportunities to share this information and materials. Stakeholders remained really committed to promoting the Red Seal program. Now, when it came to discussing areas for further work, there were 3 main themes that stakeholders agreed to, and that was to continue to work on the harmonization process, that it was really important to connect industry with employers and keep them updated and included as part of the process, and to communicate with stakeholders along the way. So that's why we're really happy to introduce Jeff Ritter and Chris Stubbs from the Canadian Council of Directors of Apprenticeship, who will be joining us live today and provide us with an update on the Harmonization Initiative. So Jeff Ritter has led the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Certification Commission as CEO for the past 5 years. He holds a master's degree in business administration and has extensive experience in strategy development, finance, and organizational performance management in the public service. Jeff is the past chair of the Canadian Council of Directors of Apprenticeship, and he now leads the CCDA's Harmonization Standing Committee in substantively aligning apprenticeship systems across Canada. Chris Stubbs has worked with the Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification for more than 14 years, most recently as the Director for Program Development. Currently, he's a project control analyst for Interprovincial Harmonization and facilitates discussion between industry subject matter experts, instructors, and apprenticeship authorities for the Harmonization Initiative. He seeks consensus in 4 areas: the use of the Red Seal trade name, the total training hours for apprentices, both on the job and in school, the number of technical training levels, and the sequencing of technical training. So welcome both Jeff and Chris. I'll give you a couple moments, Chris, just to get your presentation up.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks very much, Racine. And just while Chris is getting the presentation up for you, I just want to say how happy I am to join you today to provide an update on the Harmonization Initiative. As Racine noted, I'm the CEO of Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission. I like to refer to that as my day job. My evening and weekend work, if you will, is the chair of the Harmonization Standing Committee for the Canadian Council of Directors of Apprenticeship, or the CCDA. And I'm really happy to be joined by Chris Stubbs, who, as was noted, has been the Director of Program Development here in Saskatchewan for many years, but he's currently serving as the Project Control Analyst for the Harmonization Initiative. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to introduce you to the CCDA and harmonization, and then I'm going to let Chris lead you through how harmonization is operating and a bit about the current status. So first off, apprenticeship and trade certification is a provincial/territorial responsibility. So there are multiple systems and approaches throughout the country. Each province and territory establishes its own apprenticeship legislation. We designate the trades that we choose to be part of our apprenticeship system, and which, if any of those trades, will be compulsory or non-compulsory trades. We're also responsible to regulate and administer apprenticeship programs and certify tradespeople. The net result of that is really 13 different apprenticeship systems and over 200 regulated trades. The Canadian Council of Directors of Apprenticeship is a voluntary partnership. It consists of provincial and territorial representatives who are responsible for apprenticeship in their respective jurisdictions, as well as 2 representatives from the federal government. The CCDA is the organization that really supports the development of skilled trades in Canada as it manages the Interprovincial Standards Red Seal program. Now, that program was established more than 50 years ago to provide greater mobility across Canada for skilled tradespeople. And the Red Seal program to this day marks a standard of excellence within the skilled trades, I think a standard that is recognized very well across Canada. National Occupational Analysis, or NOAs, and Interprovincial Red Seal examinations are really the core products of the Red Seal program. The NOAs are the national standards for the Red Seal trades, and the interprovincial examinations are based on those standards and, of course, are used by provinces and territories as the final assessment before issuing a Red Seal endorsement. Now, the CCDA has established a culture of continuous improvement accompanied with industry input and industry validation for the Red Seal program. This is a really close and crucial relationship and partnership between industry and the federal and provincial and territorial governments. And that's really what drives the development of both the NOAs and the Red Seal examinations. The CCDA provides some options for apprenticeship jurisdictions to consider while recognizing that apprenticeship and trade certification are the responsibilities of each individual province and territory. So the CCDA reviews our strategic priorities on an annual basis. We want to make sure that we have both a clear vision as well as measurable goals. And we've got 4 current priorities. The first of which, and we're going to spend our time talking about on this webinar, is harmonization. Now, that's a benefit to both apprentices and training providers, and by aligning training systems across Canada. The second strategic priority is employer engagement. Of course, that's going to benefit employers by ensuring that the Red Seal program meets industry standards. Standards and assessment, which is and always will be a sort of a core tenet of the CCDA work, benefits both employers and apprentices by ensuring the value and integrity of Red Seal certification. And finally, communications, which we think benefits everyone in the apprenticeship system by creating greater awareness of progress and opportunities, and provides information to enhance the apprenticeship system. So the goal of harmonization is to substantively align apprenticeship systems across Canada by making the apprenticeship and training requirements and processes more consistent in Red Seal trades. Substantively align means making the apprenticeship systems similar but not identical. It's very important that we continue to allow for regional differences. The integrity of the apprenticeship training remains intact while still allowing for differences across the country. In consultation with stakeholders, the CCDA identified 4 harmonization priorities for each trade in each province and territory that's participating. The first is the use of the Red Seal trade name. You may be surprised to know that sometimes these trades are called different things across the country. Second is consistent total training hours. And by total training hours, we mean both the in-school as well as the on-the-job component. And the third key element is the same number of training levels. And the fourth and perhaps most important from an industry perspective is consistent sequencing of training content. And of course, using the most recent national occupational analysis. Now, I should note that the government of Quebec is currently participating as an observer, and also that in Ontario, consultations with industry partners on harmonization are led by the Ontario College of Trades, and our understanding is Ontario remains supportive of harmonization and of course endorses any effort that enhances the quality of apprenticeship and the mobility of apprentices. However, Ontario is unable to commit to implementation of specific harmonization elements or timelines at this time. Now, a broad cross-section of national apprenticeship stakeholders representing employers and workers have called for harmonization of apprenticeship training. We think that harmonization will facilitate the mobility of apprentices across Canada. That should support an increase in completion rates, and it'll bring benefits for different players. Employers will see simpler cross-border recruitment and movement of apprentices. Apprentices will have the ability to take in-school technical training and accumulate workplace hours in other jurisdictions. And of course, training providers will have an opportunity to share best practices and curriculum resources. I'll now turn it over to Chris Stubbs for the next part of the presentation. So Chris, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. In order to meet the Forum of Labour Market Ministers' strategic goal of harmonizing 30 Red Seal trades by 2020, of course outside of Quebec, who's an observer on this Harmonization Initiative, the CCDA has divided the work into phases for these trades. So each phase has its own target date for implementation. In reviewing the timeline for harmonization of Red Seal trades, the trades were selected for review in different phases based on high volume, high demand, or trades with high levels of common training with other Red Seal trades. So I'll discuss the first 3 phases shortly, but would like to note the trades selected for phases 4 and 5. Phase 4 to be implemented by September 2019 includes rig technician, refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, insulator heat and frost, machinist, and tool and die maker. And phase 5 to be implemented by September 2020 includes cook, power line technician, motor vehicle body repair, automotive painter, and hairstylist in the traditional apprenticeship format. So there are 4 main groups involved in the harmonization process. There's of course the CCDA, the Harmonization Standing Committee, ISEC, which is the Interprovincial Standards and Examination Committee, and the Harmonization Team, which includes staff from the Federal Government, Employment and Social Development Canada, and myself as the Project Control Analyst. The process for harmonizing a trade follows 4 steps. First, research and analysis, consultation, consensus, and implementation. So when we look at the methodology, a questionnaire is sent out to the provinces and territories to collect jurisdictional data on the training requirements for the trade. Provinces and territories are asked to complete that questionnaire based on the training requirements in their own jurisdiction. That trade's training inventory is consolidated and analyzed to identify existing commonalities among jurisdictions. On the basis of commonalities, proposed harmonization recommendations are developed with respect to trade name, number of training levels, total number of training hours, and sequencing. Proposed harmonization recommendations are completed in 2 different phases. The first one is to lock in the first 3 recommendations in advance of the Pan-Canadian RSOS workshop, which is the Red Seal Occupational Standard, formerly NOA. And second, the proposed sequencing, which is the 4th recommendation as a starting point for consultations with industry at the workshop. The proposed harmonized sequencing of training happens on Friday of the Occupational Standard workshop, and it's built with subject matter experts from industry and training institutions. After the Pan-Canadian Occupational Standard workshop, provinces and territories are invited to comment on any red flags using their own curriculum advisors, such as a curriculum board or other industry advisory board. And once those red flags are compiled, webinars are held to come to national consensus. So in October of 2016, the Forum of Labour Market Ministers, or the FLMM, reaffirmed their commitment to harmonizing apprenticeship training for 30 Red Seal trades by 2020 in most jurisdictions, with an effort to harmonize training for 2/3 of Red Seal apprentices by 2017. The CCDA continues to support this important initiative. This chart shows the percentage of Red Seal apprentices who at the point noted in time at the bottom will be taking training in a trade that has been harmonized. Consensus has been reached with industry across the country for the path forward for all 18 of the first 18 trades. Implementation for the first 9 trades was completed in most jurisdictions, and we saw changes beginning in September of 2016 in the trades of carpenter, metal fabricator fitter, welder, the 3 ironworker trades, the mobile crane operator trades, and tower crane operator. The remaining 9 of the first 18 trades will be implemented by the fall of 2017, and they include heavy-duty equipment technician, which was actually moved from phase 1 to phase 2 because of common training in some jurisdictions with 2 other trades, truck and transport mechanic, agricultural equipment technician, construction electrician, industrial electrician, industrial mechanic millwright, automotive service technician, plumber, and steam fitter pipe fitter. So the goal is to have phase 3 trades harmonized and implemented by September of 2018. And the trades of boilermaker, sprinkler fitter, concrete finisher, and landscape horticulturist have reached consensus and are currently in the process of being implemented in most provinces and territories. And we're making progress in the trade of sheet metal worker. The Red Seal trade name, total training hours, and number of training levels are ready for implementation. And regarding sequencing of training, in early March, sheet metal worker subject matter experts met in Ottawa to develop the new Red Seal occupational standard for their trade. And at the conclusion of that workshop, proposed sequencing was developed by industry stakeholders. So after provincial and territorial reviews are completed, national webinars will commence, and that actually happens this month. Over the last few years, the CCDA has gained great momentum in meeting the FLMM timelines, achieved greater efficiencies in the harmonization process, and ensured long-term sustainability by aligning the Harmonization and Red Seal Occupational Standards, or RSOS processes. The RSOS process updates products for a trade on a regular basis, and this rigorous process includes extensive input from industry representatives to carefully identify everything that competent tradespeople must know and be able to do. The scope of the trade and the trends and technologies that may be changing it, and the activities that are performed in each province and territory. So as a result, the RSOS can generate different products that reflect harmonized training, such as a curriculum outline, on-the-job training guides, a logbook, and essential skills outline, and this is organized by apprenticeship level. So that's some of the updates regarding the efficiencies with the RSOS and the harmonization process, and I'll be passing the slide deck back to Jeff.
Thank you very much, Chris. So we certainly appreciate the opportunity to connect with you today, to provide you with a little more information about harmonization, and perhaps more importantly, to answer any questions that you may have. The CCDA does provide up-to-date information on harmonization of each trade through something that are called Red Seal e-blasts. So please visit the Red Seal website to sign up if you want to receive the latest information. We'd just like to leave you with a few key takeaways today. The first is the process of harmonization really began because industry was calling for it for many, many years. Harmonization will facilitate the mobility of apprentices across Canada. We think that'll support an increase in completion rates and bring benefits for employers, apprentices, and training providers. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, over the past few years, harmonization has proven that it is possible to have conversations across Canada that result in successful compromise and common goals. The first priority is to reach the mandate of harmonizing apprenticeship training for 30 Red Seal trades by 2020 in most jurisdictions, and harmonizing training for 2/3 of Red Seal apprentices by 2017. A secondary benefit is that we now have an avenue to continue to have these apprenticeship conversations across Canada regarding common issues. The alignment of harmonization and the Red Seal Occupational Standard, or RSOS processes, we believe will ensure long-term sustainability, and it will continue to build upon all of the work that has been completed throughout the harmonization process. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention, and we'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you so much to both Chris and Jeff. The first question that I have is, in Alberta, the trade of sheet metal worker is ready to implement a new course outline, which will include the ability to obtain a Class B gas ticket for the students. We are offering 4 years of training at 10 weeks each year to get a ticket in 2 separate Red Seal trades. As far as I know, no other province or territory does this. How does this align with the Harmonization Initiative?
Thanks for your question. As far as sheet metal worker is concerned at this time, as you mentioned in your comment, both gas fitter and sheet metal worker are designated trades, and that's true within the Red Seal program as well. Sheet metal worker and gas fitter are 2 separate entities. So as far as the harmonization approach, at least starting out, we're looking specifically at the sheet metal worker program across the country, and that discussion has just started and will unfold with the industry starting this month. So we have developed the occupational standard, and we have a proposed sequencing as designed by industry. Now, in the event jurisdictions choose to alter that program by meeting and exceeding that standard or incorporating other scope of practice, such as your example, gas fitter, that's something that will come out during our discussions for harmonization, and they'll also be identified as potential variations in the process. Our key concern right now is to really focus on the trade of sheet metal worker and make sure that those elements across the levels are harmonized so that apprentices can certainly progress through their various levels of training. Even if they're mobile, they'll experience similar training across the jurisdictions within the scope of this sheet metal worker trade. Jeff, did you have anything to add?
Well, just one thing, and for every trade that we've worked through these processes on, there have been issues or variances that have been identified by participants, and I think that the key thing that we've been able to accomplish is to really facilitate a big tent kind of consultative process that puts industry experts from one particular jurisdiction in a virtual room, almost like what we're doing today with their colleagues and counterparts from across the country. And creating that kind of venue has enabled us really, to this point, to be able to resolve really any issues that have come up. So, we're pretty confident that we'll be able to find a path forward, because, the key thing about harmonization is it is a goal that really all participants across the country share in.
We have one more question. BC is the only province that has a 2-level hairstylist apprenticeship. How will this be rolled into harmonization?
From the information that we've collected, there are other jurisdictions that do, at least on the books, or have implemented a 2-level apprenticeship program. So again, that whole process that we talked about earlier in the presentation, the idea of gathering that evidence, compiling it, looking for commonalities, and then discussing it at the Red Seal Occupational Standard Workshop, all that process will be held true to hairstylists as well. And if the jurisdictions do show that the traditional apprenticeship for that trade is across 2 levels, then that's how the harmonized curriculum will be designed, and then we'll roll that out moving forward for the implementation date. But to my knowledge, from the early environmental scans, there are other jurisdictions that will have 2 levels within their apprenticeship practice for a hairstylist.
Another question we have, the pipe trades have no national textbooks, as each institution has their own content. Can you tell us more about how the harmonization process will help create common resources such as textbooks or learning materials?
Sure, I'll maybe just start and talk about the potential opportunity and emphasize one thing. We're not seeking to harmonize or to develop a common curriculum, but what is happening as a result of harmonization by teaching the content within the technical training in the same sequence, or roughly the same sequence, it presents opportunities for training institutions to start looking at best practice, right? When we're covering the same topics in the same levels, there is an opportunity for increased cooperation across training institutions. Now, that's not part of the scope of the Harmonization Initiative, but it is something that we're increasing the likelihood of increased cooperation down the road.
CAV undertook a national research project on apprentice labor mobility to learn about jurisdictional requirements, barriers, employer perspectives, and apprentice relocation experiences. Insights were gathered about motivations for relocating, mobility barriers, and potential supports. And stakeholders from all regions participated in the research. So the Apprentice Mobility in Canada report is available to members on the CAV website, as well as the Apprenticeship in Canada 2016 report. This draws upon Canada data, international data on skills, and national surveys conducted by the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. It provides an overview of apprenticeship trends in the current skilled trades training environment and includes perspectives from employers, journey persons, and apprentices. The report provides an overview of the apprentice mobility process and information on provincial territorial agreements impacting apprentice mobility. We also just wanted to share the CAV on the Move tool with you. So for apprentices or journey persons looking to relocate, by identifying the place of origin and destination, they'll be routed to information about the regulatory processes in each place. We've also included links to help with their move. The information on this site has been sourced from jurisdictional apprenticeship authorities with an emphasis on their mobility policies and practices. So here at CAV, we've got lots of upcoming events, so we do hope that you will try to join us for one of those. On June 1st, just in a few weeks, we'll be in Winnipeg with Skills Canada and hosting an event called Building Blocks for Youth Success in the Trades. At this session, we'll be looking at the 3 competency areas that young people must develop on their path to trade certification: essential skills, technical skills, and employability skills. So if you are going to be in Winnipeg for the National Skills Competition, we do hope that you will register and attend that event with us. Registration is filling up, so if you are interested in attending, I do encourage you to sign up soon. On June 13th, we'll be continuing with our web series as part of the Future of Apprenticeship in Canada. We'll be talking about completion. We will send out an email link once registration is open for that event. On September 19th, we're going to be in Calgary. We'll be hosting an apprenticeship roundtable in partnership with SAIT Polytechnic. We'll be focusing on essential skills, specifically in regards to newcomers to Canada. And SAIT will provide information on the success of their language training program for apprentices. On September 20th, we will be back from our summer webinar break, and we'll have the 5th installment of our web series where we'll discuss welcoming workplaces. On October 25th to 27th, we do hope you'll join us for the annual general meeting. We'll be hosting 2 days of apprenticeship workshops. We will be sending out more information on that event really shortly, so if you are interested in attending, just ensure that you're signed up for our newsletter, and you'll be the first to know about when that opens up. On November 9th, we're going to be having a National Youth Employment Conference. So we're going to be inviting 100 youth from across Canada to join us here in Ottawa and participate in discussions to develop a national youth employment strategy. So it is open to youth between ages of 16 and 24. So if you do have, if you're from a secondary education, a post-secondary education, you work with apprentices in that age group, we do encourage you to share the information with them. Lastly, we have finally announced the dates for our biennial national conference. So do save the date for June 10th to 12th when we'll be headed to Montreal. Lastly, we just wanted to tell you about the the Apprentices in Canada e-panel. CAV, this is a Canadian Apprenticeship Forum initiative where we're inviting apprentices to undertake 3 surveys a year. We are developing research insights from these surveys. The first report on apprentice attitudes towards exams is available on our website. So if you do work with apprentices, we do encourage you to encourage them to sign up for the Apprentices in Canada e-panel. If you do need more information, please just contact me after the webinar and I'll be happy to send that to you. So thank you again to everybody for joining us today. I want to say a special thank you to both Jeff and Chris who joined us today and provided the update on the Harmonization Initiative. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me after the webinar and we will, I'll do my best to follow up with you soon. So thank you very much everybody and have a wonderful afternoon.